My teacher called my mom to compliment my incredibly vivid imagination. The problem was, I hadn't made up a single word. I was 8. Mrs. Delgado gave us a writing assignment. Describe your favorite weekend memory. Most kids wrote about Disneyland or their dog or whatever. I wrote about the Saturday my dad took me to meet his friend Natalie and her baby. I thought it was a perfectly normal day. Dad told me we were running errands, which usually meant boring stuff like the hardware store. But instead, we pulled up to this apartment complex I'd never seen before. And he told me to be on my best behavior because we were visiting someone special. Natalie opened the door and hugged my dad for a really long time. Longer than you hug a friend. I noticed that, even at 8. But I didn't know what it meant yet. She had a baby and a bouncer by the couch. A tiny girl with my dad's exact nose. I remember thinking that was funny. The baby's name was Adriana, and she grabbed my finger and wouldn't let go. And my dad said, "See? She already loves her big sister." I wrote all of that in my essay. I described how Natalie made us grilled cheese sandwiches and how my dad watched football on her couch with his feet up like he lived there. I wrote about how he kissed Natalie on the forehead when we left and told her he'd figure it out soon. I wrote about how he made me promise not to tell Mom about our special adventure because it was going to be a surprise. Mrs. Delgado pulled me aside after class. She had this look on her face real careful, like she was trying not to scare me. "Leah, does your dad visit this friend often?" I told her. "Yeah, almost every Saturday when Mom thought he was golfing." She called my mom that afternoon. I was doing homework at the kitchen table when my mom hung up the phone. She just stood there for a second, totally still, staring at the wall above the fridge like she'd never seen it before. Then she walked to the bedroom and closed the door, and I heard a sound I'd never heard my mother make. Not crying exactly. More like the air had been punched out of her. When my dad came home, his golf bag over his shoulder, my mom was sitting on the couch holding my essay. 2 pages of wide-ruled notebook paper, with a sticker from Mrs. Delgado that said great detail. She held it up without saying anything. My dad read the first line, and I watched his face change. It went from confused to gray in about 3 seconds. He looked at me, then at my mom, then back at the essay like he was hoping the words might rearrange themselves into something different. "Leah, go to your room." I went. But our house had thin walls and a heating vent that carried sound straight from the living room to my bedroom floor. I pressed my ear against it and heard everything. My mom's voice was low and steady, which was scarier than screaming. She asked him how long. He said it was complicated. She asked again, how long? He said 2 years. She asked about the baby. He went quiet. She asked if Adriana was his. He went quieter. Then my mom said, "She described your nose on that baby's face, Scott. Your 8-year-old daughter identified your child before I did." That sentence has lived in my head for 15 years. The next part happened fast. My dad slept in his car that night. By Friday, my mom had called a lawyer. By the following week, my dad had moved his stuff out while I was at school. So I came home to half-empty closets and a garage with a clean rectangle where his workbench used to be. My mom tried hard to keep things normal. She'd make my lunch and ask about school and watch movies with me on the couch. But sometimes I'd find her at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, just sitting there in the dark, drinking coffee and staring at nothing. The worst part was that I didn't understand what I'd done. I just wrote about my Saturday. I described what I saw because Mrs. Delgado said to use specific details. Great detail. That sticker haunted me. I'd gotten an A for blowing up my family. My dad tried the weekend visit thing for a while. Pizza and mini golf and these long, awkward silences where he'd start to explain something and then stop himself. One Saturday, he brought Adriana along, and I sat in the back seat next to her car seat while she slept, staring at that nose. My nose, our dad's nose. He asked me if I wanted to hold her. I said no. Not because I was angry at the baby. I just didn't know how to hold something that had already broken everything. The visits got less frequent, then monthly. Then a birthday card with a check inside and a note that said, "Love, Dad." No phone call, no pizza, just a rectangle of paper that my mom quietly deposited into my savings account without comment. Years later, I found my essay in a box in my mom's closet. She'd kept it. The sticker was still there, the corners curled in yellow, and underneath Mrs. Delgado's smiley face and my mom's handwriting were 4 words I'd never noticed before. She saved us both.